There are three types of muscle in the body: skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. The skeletal muscle is a voluntary muscle, which means that we can actively control its function. It's attached to the bone and forms a distinct organ of muscle tissue, blood vessels, tendons, and nerves that cover our bones. They can contract quickly and slowly, so therefore allow both anaerobic and aerobic. They work both aerobic and anaerobically. The functions through contraction and relaxation are movement, support, and homeostasis. Arguably, the main function is movement, which is allowed through the attachment of muscle to bone via tendons. For example, the biceps brachii is attached to the shoulder and the forearm bone. Contraction, and thus shortening of the biceps brachii, pulls on the tendons attached to the bones. Since the shoulder is stationary, the forearm moves. Smooth muscle is found in the walls of hollow organs like your intestines. They are involuntary, so they work automatically without you being aware of them. The functions of smooth muscle depend on where they are found in the body. The functions of smooth muscle are extremely crucial to the effectiveness of each organ with the muscle involved. For example, it determines the flow of blood in the arteries. The cardiac muscle is involuntary and has evolved to pump blood throughout the body. The only cardiac muscle in the body is the heart, and it makes most of the mass of it. The main function is to supply oxygen-rich blood around the body. The heart beats powerfully and continuously throughout an entire lifetime without any rest. So cardiac muscle has evolved to have incredibly high contractile strength and endurance. And because the heart maintains its own rhythm, cardiac muscle has developed the ability to quickly spread electrochemical signals so that all the cells in the heart can contract together as a team. Here is a diagram of all the muscles in the body. Functions of the muscle. Movement. Movement is controlled by the central nervous system, so therefore is voluntary. From this we know it's produced by skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles exist in pairs, whereby one muscle is primary mover, the agonist, and the other acts as the antagonist, which relaxes. This aids the movement. For example, when you perform a bicep curl, which is elbow flexion, your bicep, which is the agonist, contracts and the radius is pulled up via tendons. The weight is pulled up via the tendons, when your tricep is relaxed. When your arm returns to the extended position, it is your tricep that contracts and your bicep relaxes. However, that is a myth, and it's actually the bicep contracting eccentrically, as its gravity. Stability. The skeletal muscles in your core help protect your spine and help with stability. Your core muscle group includes abdominals, back, and pelvic muscles. Stability is vital for most sports as it allows you to produce large movements and maintain posture. For example, when doing a throw-in in football, the abdominals allow the athlete to stay upright, as without stability they would fall due to momentum and power created by the action. Digestion. Your smooth muscles involuntarily contract and relax as food passes through the body during digestion. These muscles also help push food out of your body through defecation or vomiting when you're sick. Body temperature regulation. Since body heat is lost to the environment in the typical conditions, the body must generate heat to maintain a normal temperature. Most of this heat is generated by your skeletal muscles. When your body temperature decreases, skeletal muscle activity automatically increases to generate heat. Shivering is the most obvious manifestation of this response. Smooth muscle in the blood vessels supplying to your skin also automatically constrict in cold conditions to conserve heat by limiting your body service. Circulation. The cardiac muscles found on the walls of the heart involuntarily allow circulation. The only cardiac muscle, the heart, has the function of pumping blood around the body to give the muscles oxygen to work aerobically. Also, pumping oxygen-rich blood allows respiration, which allows us to live healthily. Marathon runners are aided greatly by a good heart, as they can effectively pump lots of oxygen-rich blood to the muscles so they can perform aerobically for longer, which is vital for long-distance running. However, a collection of skeletal muscles in the heart, known as the skeletal muscle pumper, also help circulation, as they increase venous return as they help control blood flow. Origin and insertion. The origin is the point of attachment that doesn't move during a contraction, and the insertion is the point of attachment that does move during a contraction. Here are examples of origin and insertions. One example is the biceps brachii. The origin is the scapula, and the insertion is the radius. Muscle fibres. Here is a chart showing the characteristics of each type. Type 1, also known as slow twitch muscle fibres. Type 1 contracts just aerobically, unlike Type 2A, as not a lot of power is required, so therefore has a very high resistance to fatigue, as the exertion of force is low. The low exertion of force allows the muscle to work aerobically or with oxygen, so is therefore favourable in sports where you do lots of low force contraction, which is enabled by ATP, which is energy produced by the aerobic metabolic system, for example 1500 meters. Type 2A, also known as FOG, fast oxidative glycolytic muscle fibres. Type 2A work both aerobically and anaerobically. They're regarded as a hybrid between Type 1 and 2B, with all the properties are in the middle of the two. They contract quite quickly with medium force, and the metabolism also works at a medium pace, so therefore they're quite resistant to fatigue, but still fatigue is a lot more than Type 1. These muscle fibres are helpful for athletes who need to work both anaerobically and aerobically, for example, a 400 meter runner. Type 2B, also known as glycolytic or fast twitch muscle fibres, contracts anaerobically with high speed and force to produce short and powerful movement as a result of very fast metabolism. Due to the movement being anaerobic or without oxygen, unlike 2A, which is both aerobic and anaerobic, they fatigue very easily. They're useful in sports that require short and powerful movement, for example the 100 meter sprints, in which you work without oxygen with full force for a short duration. Selection of events. This shows how muscle fibres can, in certain sports situations, muscle fibres can vary. In basically every sport, all three muscle fibres are used, sometimes two. Regarding muscle fibres in football, it's very situational in which ones are used. For example, Type 1 muscle fibres are used the majority of the game when you aren't part of an attacking or defending scenario, and you may be passively jogging or just standing still. Type 2A may be used when running at a moderately fast pace along with an attack, and Type 2B is used when jumping for a header as it's a short, powerful contraction. This is data from a test, and I analysed what muscle fibres were used. And from this data, I can see that the participant has predominantly fast twitch muscle fibres, which is Type 2B. This is because she has very large spikes with fast and large decreases in power. This is relatable to fast twitch or glycolytic muscle fibres as they exert high amounts of force and have low resistance to fatigue. The big spikes indicate a high exertion of power and then a large and quick drop due to a lack of slow twitch muscle fibres and the general low resistance to fatigue from the fast twitch muscle fibres. Also, we see her peak of force exertion at 95 RPM, which then decreases to about 75 RPM, which further shows she's predominantly fast twitch muscle fibres as it's a quick and powerful movement. Megan had a very high peak force exertion of 155 RPM, but then quickly drops to around 60 and then back up to 100 RPM. It then slowly decreases and then stays at a steady rate of about 40 to a slight increase at the end of about 60. This suggests she has slow twitch muscle fibres and works aerobically as she stays at a steady level for such a long time. Although she has a much higher peak power, she has smaller spikes, suggesting she has better fitness than Georgia as she works aerobically compared to Georgia working anaerobically. Types of contraction. Eccentric muscle contractions are when the muscle that's working lengthens, for example in the downward phase of the bicep curl. It's the bicep contracting to control the lowering against gravity. Concentric contractions are when the muscle shortens in length, for example in the upward phase of the bicep curl, and you bring the weight up. Isotonic contractions are those in which muscle changes length as it contracts and causes movement of a body part, and eccentric and concentric are both examples of this. Isometric contractions are when the muscles are working, there is no movement in the muscle changing length, so it's in a fixed position, normally to provide structure and support to hold something up, for example the crucifix of rings in gymnastics, as you're staying in a steady position, but still requires a lot of force. Isokinetic is when the muscle changes length at a steady and constant speed, for example lateral raises in the gym. Agonistic pairs. Antagonistic pairs consist of two muscles normally very close to each other, While one contracts, the other relaxes, and the other way around. An example is the biceps brachii and triceps brachii. During the upwards phase of the bicep curl, the triceps brachii relaxes and the biceps brachii contracts concentrically. However, some muscles aid the antagonistic pairs in producing efficient movement. A synergist, for example, is the muscle or muscles that emphasize and help the agonist in producing movement and stabilizing part of the body to allow full efficiency for the movement. For example, in the upwards phase of the bicep curl, the brachioradialis helps the agonist, which is the biceps brachii, and holds up the arm. Also, a fixator is a muscle that stabilizes the joint at the origin of the agonist to allow the movement to be fully supported. In the upwards phase of the bicep curl also, the rotator cuffs help to hold up the whole arm to optimize the effectiveness of the motion. Sliding filament theory. Each muscle is made up from many muscle fibers. Each fiber is made of thousands of myofibrils. Myofibrils are made from thousands of sarcomere, which are a basic unit of striated muscle tissue. Finally, within the sarcomere, there are actin filaments and myosin filaments. When the muscles relax, tropin and tropomyosin molecules form around the actin to stop the attachment to myosin, which allows contractions. The brain sends impulses to the myofibrils via the nerves when it wants the muscle to contract. The body cleverly releases calcium to remove the tropomyosin and troponin, which allows the actin and myosin to attach. When they attach, the myosin moves towards the middle of the sarcomere and pulls each side closer together, which ultimately causes the contraction. To stop the contraction, ATP, which is energy, breaks the bonds, and the troponin and triamyosin return. Motor unit, they work to allow muscular contractions. The neuromuscular system is both the nervous system and the muscular system working together. The motor unit is a good example. It's a good example of this, as it's the process of the brain telling the muscles to contract. For example, in table tennis, specifically receiving and performing a backhand, the brain identifies the ball as a stimulus and then sends the information to the central nervous system. It's sent down. The information is sent down the motor neuron as action potential. It goes down the axon and reaches the neuromuscular junction at the triceps brachii as its backhand. If there's enough action potential along with acetylcholine to surpass the threshold needed, it passes through the synaptic cleft and all the muscle fibers contract with equal force and create a contraction in the triceps. This relates to the all-or-nothing principle. The all-or-nothing principle is the idea that a contraction will only occur when all muscle fibers contract equally in union. If they have enough acetylcholine and action potential to surpass the threshold, and if they don't have enough acetylcholine or action potential, none of the fibers will contract.